Hey guys, welcome to SNS TV. The Big Fat Stinking Myths trilogy will be concluded tonight with our final installment of stupid fucking myths that are out there that we want to lay to the ground, put in the earth, bury it forever.
Yes. So last week we talked about, let's see, which were the ones we talked about last week? That MPUAs have flawless game, or perfect game.
I think cultural differences.
Yeah, we touched on cultural differences, getting the every girl you talk to, things like that. Babu, good question about what do you guys think about DHV stories. You know what, we can cover that one again. That is a good question. It doesn't mind, or I don't mind beating that dead horse.
Yeah. Because
for some reason you can beat it a lot and it never stays dead.
Nobody in this entire seduction community seems to get how stupid DHV stories are. So we can't beat that one nearly enough.
You know what? So let's start by talking about DHV stories. Now the traditional wisdom is that a girl's social value is right here, and you come up and you're going to be down here. So you knock her down a few pegs just by playful insults or the neg, and then you tell a demonstration of higher value or DHV story, and it knocks you up to here. So all of a sudden she's looking at you, you're higher value than she is, and she's instantly attracted. It really does not work that way. Because, for one, by launching into a quote-unquote DHV story, you're kind of being like a dancing monkey. Kind of a clown, you're filling time. Now, if it's a really good story, it might be entertaining, but it is so much more effective to get her to tell you a story.
Whoever is talking the most or telling the most stories is the one who is qualifying themselves the most, which in turn means they are baiting or they are investing the most. So if you can get her to tell stories, she's putting more into the interaction than you are. And somebody actually told me another way to put the whole the lion doesn't have to roar. If you have to say you are, you aren't. Keep that in mind, guys. If you have to say how awesome you are, you're not that awesome. A rich man doesn't have to tell you how rich he is. A powerful man doesn't have to tell you how powerful he is. Everybody just knows. And the less they say about it, the more.
And look at it this way. Not having to DHV is a DHV.
Wrap your minds around that. It's a Cohen. Alright.
And Guido 101.1 or 101-1? What does that mean?
There's a lot of Guidos.
That's a fun name, Guido 101-1. He's asking, what about the 90-10 rule and how it relates to DHV stories? It depends on which 90-10 rule you're talking about. If it's what I'm thinking of, it's that initially you make up 90% of the conversation, she makes up 10%, and then hopefully you cut it down until it's 50-50. Is that the one you're talking about? Epic, the Afghan chick, was she a local or a Westerner? Which Afghan chick?
When he was in Afghanistan?
When I was in Afghanistan, or like the Middle Eastern girls I've hooked up with since. But in Afghanistan, I only hooked up with Westerners, just because I didn't want to get anyone killed by hooking up with me.
Okay, so.
But the 90-10 rule.
90-10 rule, it is the one. Actually, tell them what, because you studied with Juggler way back in the day, who created this 90-10 rule, and what does he say about it now?
Actually, I don't know what he's changed because I haven't kept up with.
I believe he says
stuff.
he rused the day that he came up with the 90-10 rule because it's silly.
For Mystery and Tyler of RSD. All right, I guess they came up with it too.
I believe it's Juggler.
I think Juggler is the first one that came up with it, but then the other guys hopped on the bandwagon.
It seemed on face value to be, I don't know, something that was reflected in reality because they were going around thinking they had to tell DHV stories.
Yeah.
So.
Now I will say that sometimes I will be talking a lot just because I do like to talk, but I'm never thinking of it as I'm 90%, she's 10%. If I'm talking, I'm going to be doing something else that makes her invest. I'll be holding out my hands, playing with her, moving her around somehow that she is being escalated on, or that she's escalating on me. So, I mean, some girls are really shy, they don't have that much to say, and they're just feel so lucky to be with you. So there is that that type of girl, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that the 90-10 rule is good.
No. And in fact, even if she is one of those quiet, shy girls, you can always still try. Always try to get her to invest early in the interaction. Try just saying something very short and seeing if you can get a bigger response out of her. And if you can, cool. If not, prime the pump. Have something ready. Tell a story or whatever. Not a DHB story, but have something ready. So if you tell her to do one of my silly ones that I always like doing, tell me a joke, have a joke ready.
Sick Nasty is asking, hey, Epic or Nick, when can you deliver sexual lines with also an internally turned on state? When you're saying things like, take it all now.
Yeah. You're definitely going to be saying overtly sexual stuff and be internally turned on when you are fucking her. So right around when that moment is imminent, fuck yeah. It should be that way. It'd be a stretch, but you could possibly do it right as you're pulling her to the pulling the trigger, getting her out of the bar. You could be doing that towards the end of the interaction and before the actual sex occurs. That's when you're going to be doing that. But you can retain a little bit of it more into the interaction the more turned on she gets. The higher up the S-axis she is, the more internally turned on you can also be when you're being overtly sexual.
All right, and Guido's got another really good question. Many guys use David D'Angelo's cocky funny, including myself. Will cocky funny get you laid? Is it compatible with your system? You've yet to touch on this.
Oh, I'm surprised I didn't write that down as one of our myths. Here's the thing about cocky funny. It's a trap. It will get a lot of girls giggling. That's good. We like that. We like it when girls giggle. The problem is that it can become instantly dancing monkey-ish. It also will get you caught in these banter wars that go nowhere. And believe me, I know. I used to get stuck in these constantly because I love doing this. I love push-pull. I love being cocky funny. The problem is it doesn't really get you laid. It just gets you in little banter wars typically. So especially the longer it goes on, and the more you do it, the more addictive it is to do it even more and more. And the more she does it, and then before long, no one's getting laid. So, oh, hello, Ustream moderator bot. All right. Cocky funny, use it sparingly, use it at your own risk. I still do it. I can't help not doing it, but you're far better off if you can get her on more of a seductive thing than on a banter war.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the principles, or maybe some of the same lines we might even use when we're trying to sexually escalate, but being internally neutral while saying something sexual. So I would never use a cocky funny line just for the sake of using a cocky funny line because it's going to make her giggle. I might use something that could be interpreted as a cocky funny line, but really I am trying to set a sexual frame. Now if that quote-unquote cocky funny line sets a sexual frame, then that's much more effective. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of guys get laid with the cocky funny lines. Is they have, they're doing across the board, and it turns out that 40% of them, or maybe 30% of these lines happen to be sexual frames that they've accidentally set. And sexual frames are really powerful. Once you set those,
far more powerful than any cocky funny.
Yeah, then it makes up for that other 60% or whatever of cocky funny lines that kind of push things in the wrong direction.
And the other thing is if you're doing a lot of cocky funny, you're doing that to get a reaction out of her. And what does that say about you? It says you're the kind of guy that's just trying to get a reaction out of her. You're trying to push on certain buttons and all of that. The guy who really is good at this, who gets quick, rapid seductions or same-night lays, he has her doing that to him. She's trying to push his buttons. So you want to change the dynamic so that you're not the one pushing the buttons, but she's the one doing it.
All right, and Guido's asked another question. What about GM style? Nathan S. Lizard, sexual frame, cocky funny.
I don't really know Grandmaster style that much. I guess from what I remember of it, it's basically caveman. It's just being very sexual. That's fine.
You're talking about GM like Gunwitch Method GM, right?
Are we talking Gunwitch Method or Grandmaster?
Yeah.
Those are two different.
And I don't know who S. Lizard is.
Yeah, I don't either.
So, before that, Tommy Lovable has a question which is a bit off topic but easy to answer. Puma skills, needed or not? And for those of you not familiar with it, Puma is Brad Jackson's magic tricks. And here's the thing I'll say about using magic tricks to pick up women. If you do it the way Mystery Method says to do it, it's not going to work. If you do it the way Brad Jackson says with the Puma skills, that will work.
Yeah, it'll work a lot better.
Although
necessary, no.
Yeah, it's not necessary, but it does help.
Yeah,
But
if you enjoy doing that kind of thing, sure.
And remember that when you're doing these Puma skills, the idea is to do maybe 1 or 2 tricks throughout the entire night. And you never call attention to it. It's just something like, as you're paying your bill, you hand a 1, like, wait a second, turn it into a 10, and then go back. And then anyone that asks you, how'd you do that? Say, what? Do what? And just pretend you didn't see it. And so it's kind of under the radar. But if you bring a deck of cards and, like, magic balls and
stuff
sponge
like that.
balls and dice and, like, a silk
handkerchiefs up your sleeves,
then
that's just weird.
ridiculous.
Who does that? I mean,
so not that way. But Puma skills, nothing wrong with those.
Yeah, nothing wrong with them. You add them in if you want. If that's your thing, if you like magic, sure, add it in if you like. You don't need it. That's not to say that we don't recommend it, because Brad is an awesome dude.
He is awesome. And it's actually a really funny thing that I don't use magic, because when I was a kid, I loved magic. As a matter of fact, every year for like 4 or 5 years, I put on a magic show for the neighborhood. As a kid, I used to be hired out. I was like this kid magician, and corporations would hire me to like entertain the kids at their corporate events while the adults went off. I did that from like 11 to from like 9 years old to about 14 years old. I was a magician professionally. I made like $20 each time.
The funny thing is, in my nightstand right over there, underneath the drawer with dildos and sex toys and all that and condoms, that thing, there's another drawer that has nothing but magic tricks, sponge balls, it's got scotch and soda, it's got all these trick decks, all that kind of stuff. I've never brought that out. It reminds me of this time when I used to go to this bar, and there's always this guy who was there, he just read the game, I guess, and he had his sponge balls, he had his deck of cards, and he was always there doing tricks, and he was the easiest guy. And I'm not saying AMOG guys, but he was the easiest guy for me to go and just steal girls off of all night. And it just cracked me up, because he's sitting there trying to do his card trick, and I would just, hey, so let me see that card. Oh, cool. That's awesome. And then just start talking to her, because she was already bored. I mean, it's somewhat entertaining, but it also seems really try hard. And it's once again, it's going back to the DHV thing that we were talking about earlier today. It's another one of those. If you're doing, bringing card tricks and all that, you're trying too hard to be awesome, to DHV, if you will.
All right, and all right. So back to what Guido was talking about. He clarified on the GM. He's saying Nathan S. Lizard from ASF. Quote: "If you buy me a drink, you might get lucky tonight." Or, "I like you because you're intelligent." Gesture over her breasts. "I like myself because I'm intelligent." Gesture towards your dick.
I like that. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Once GM even later got a phone call where the girl said she wanted to show him her intelligence. Cute.
Okay, yeah, I mean, totally cute stuff. I like it. Just make sure when you're saying the sexual stuff, especially if it's really early, be internally neutral. Throw it out there, let it sit there, but don't really pay any attention to it.
Yeah, it's akin to one of the things like he or I will say a lot. A girl has a lot of cleavage and she, adjusts her bra right in front of me. I say, don't do that. It makes me look at your tits. I'm trying to have a conversation with you, and now I'm looking at your gorgeous breasts. You should stop that.
Or this is one that I like to do along the same lines, and this is after I've already opened. I don't necessarily open with this, but I will tell girls, hey, you want to hear my best pickup line? Here it is. Watch, watch. And I'll talk to her breasts. I'll be, hi, my name's Nick. Nice to meet you. And just stare at her boobs while I'm doing it. Just for my own amusement. So it's another thing you can do. Yeah, I'm checking out your boobs. I'm doing what every other guy does, but I'm calling attention to the way most guys can't talk to her eyes. They talk to her boobs. And that's kind of fun. Okay. Let's see. Next question. Actually, we should get to some of these myths that we got over here. I want to talk about the spiritual seduction, the quasi-spiritual hippie bullshit seduction stuff that's out there.
We'll do that, and then we'll get to these. We've got about 3 questions on here we'll cover in a bit. So after we cover spiritual seduction, if we haven't answered your question, come back and type it on there. So, shifting gears, spiritual seduction.
Here's my take on it all. Basically, it's a bunch of undesirable people that probably couldn't get laid outside of trying to pretend it was some sort of mystical experience where, they combine forces with the universe and the mother goddess smiles down upon the two of you as you become... It's just fucking, guys. If you try to make it out to be something that big of deal, chances are it's just not going to work. She's going to be like, he is putting way too much into this. For the most part, I think people that get too heavily involved in that are doing it mostly because they couldn't get laid in any other circle. So they try to pretend to be some sort of spiritual sex guru, and it's just weird.
And answer, I don't even know how to pronounce your name, Sitio89. Yes, we can read what you're typing.
Yeah.
So, and so that's the thing about the spiritual seduction. So if you go there and you find, if you find some girl who's, you know, maybe a stripper and she's really into all that hippie stuff, and you know, you read her palm and she says it's the most amazing thing ever, then yeah, you might be able to fudge and do one of these things. But that's just because you're speaking her language, and it's a way for you to set a sexual frame that you are comfortable with her version of sexuality. Barring that, though, I wouldn't use it on any other girl.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, personally, when I find one of those girls who's really into all that astrology stuff, it
kind of turns me off.
It turns me off. So I usually just kind of push the conversation somewhere else, just because I feel like if I keep talking about it, I'm going to start mocking her to her face.
Yeah.
Because
it's hard for me not to mock that kind of thing. So yeah, just any of that quasi-hippie bullshit, throw it out. It's just fucking.
You know what? I'm going to answer this question here from Sharpshooter. This is a very important question. Did you guys ever sleep with that Erica girl that teaches that, or she just too weird?
Fuck no.
No, we have not slept with Erica. Come on, come on.
We have standards. Come on, give us some credit here. Jesus. Oh, okay.
And I'm sure if I guess if we wanted to, even though I did write that that really long article trashing her completely, probably still will.
Actually, I think you were pretty generous to her.
I guess I was generous, but I sure did trash what she teaches, and I trashed it with.
She's a lovely person, by the way.
Yes. We heard you and Epic had a gangbang with Erica. It's all over the net. Come on.
Gross.
She did have that gangbang, though.
She did have a gangbang.
She was
we were in the same town when it happened,
yeah.
but we were not a part of that.
Which is so weird, because she updated her Facebook. I'm having sex with 2 guys right now. And everyone commented like, well then why the hell are you on Facebook? It must be boring sex.
Must be the lousiest threesome ever.
Yeah, we later found out who those guys were, so more power to them.
They regret it.
They do regret it now.
Okay, no more about her. I'm getting sick in my stomach. All right. Double teams are in Orlando. Ugh. Okay, so let's go back up to some of those questions that we had earlier.
All right.
What were they?
With a lot of question marks, we got Sitio.
Okay,
I don't know. It's Sitio89. How old are you?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is that? 9, 10 question marks? I'm 33. I turned 34 in 2 weeks. And he's much younger than I am.
Yeah, I turned 33 this year. So, we are strapping young lads.
Alright, and Vito's asking the question, a bit off subject, are you the Adonis referred to in the book, The Game, who got fired from work for viewing the pickup websites too much instead of working?
I am not. Now, I was being interviewed by Neil Strauss when the book was being written, so I think he might have lifted my name. That's unconfirmed. I still like to say that because he did say how much he liked my name. However, I don't know who that guy is. No idea.
Yeah. So
chances are he's a conglomerate of a lot of people.
Yeah, so it looks like what it is, it just took some people, combined them into the person, and then used Nick's name for it. Because let's face it, Adonis is a cool name.
It is a cool name.
Use that in the book. How can we tell who's real in the community and who's garbage?
Ooh, I like that question. I think one thing you could do is demand proof. Can you see videos of them doing it? That's usually a good indicator. If they don't have any infield, I'm not saying that they don't have any ability, but being able to actually see that they go out and do this is a pretty good sign. Other than that, a lot of it you can just figure out by either logic or by scientific method. I don't know. Does it work? Yes or no? Also, you can learn a lot by just how they present. I guess it all comes down to this. If you're using their stuff, is it getting you laid?
Yeah.
I'm not saying go out and try everything, because, going out and trying stuff like EFT is just going to waste your fucking time. But, I don't know.
Yeah. Pineapple makes a good point. Meet someone in person, and it's pretty easy to tell if he's full of crap.
Yeah.
Ain't it? Not so much, because there are two separate skill sets that are in play when someone's teaching seduction. The first one is the ability just to teach, to get information out of their head into your head. And there are a lot of people who are great teachers that have a good personality, and then they are able to do it, but they don't have that second skill, which is to actually get laid and get other people laid.
You kind of need both.
And I've seen
really
people
good
with both. I've seen a lot of people who are working for some of the big companies, and they study Anthony Robbins and how to get a crowd motivated and how to get people feeling good about it. They do like fire walks and things that boost your adrenaline, so you feel
how do you
like
run
you're
around the room chanting stuff.
Yeah, or just chanting anything, and those release endorphins, and so you feel good. They're good at inspiring that, but they're not actually good at getting laid. They do things that are wrong. And we've seen other guys who get laid like crazy, and yet they can't teach at all.
Yeah.
The one guy that I'm sure that we're both thinking of right now, we've seen him. The guy, he just is fearless. He just goes and goes, talks to as many women as possible until he gets laid. And that we've seen him teach guys, and what he teaches guys is not the same stuff that he's doing.
Yeah.
It's what he thinks he's doing. He's like, yeah, I'm doing social proof. By talking to the room, what I'm doing is I'm building value. It's like, no, you're not. You're just escalating on everyone until you find a girl who accepts it.
Mm-hmm.
But in his mind, he's doing social proof, and that's why he eventually gets laid. So what you need to do is find someone who has both those sides that, can teach you, but also has the ability to actually get laid.
Mm-hmm. And those are rare, actually.
And I will have to say, not the ability to get phone numbers, not the ability to get a Facebook close, or the ability to kiss a girl the same night he meets her, the ability to get laid.
Totally a different thing.
Yes, because I've seen a lot of guys that go out and they're just masters of getting the phone number, but they get the phone number in such a way that it cuts them off sexually from pursuing it further.
Yeah.
So the numbers are either fakes or flakes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's impressive to other guys that can't get a phone number when they see, wow, this guy gets like 5 phone numbers a night. It doesn't count if they're not sleeping with those women.
Okay, Shooter has a question. Is the new book just about approaching? Yes. The new one is 100% solely just on approaching. It's the first few seconds of the interaction. And I think the way that I've written it and put it together, it may ruffle some people's feathers, but I think it's going to be the first time that any book has come out that is completely honest on it, that is really breaking it down to its steps and, just being honest that nobody likes approaching. Man, approaching sucks. Except for the fact that because it's so shitty, you're going to enjoy it more. In my book, I call it the precipice, and I'll just explain this real quick and then we'll go on. But basically, the idea is this. If you were to be standing on the edge of a cliff, jumping in, now, on the one hand, it's safe because you just saw an old man do a backflip into it just a few minutes earlier with the crowd cheering. So it's safe, but at the same time, you're standing up there and it's scary. Do you jump? The longer you stand there, the scarier it gets. But, you could actually jump into the same pool. Let's say you jump in the same pool, but it's like just right level and you just take a step and you jump in, just like jumping into a normal pool. Yeah, sure, it feels good to go in the water, but isn't it so much more exciting when you have that jump from the cliff, from the precipice? Approaching is the same way. It is scary, but the second you do it, you'll be like, why was I making this out to be such a big deal? That was awesome. And so that's kind of the angle we want to approach. Approaching.
Mm-hmm. So we are writing another book that's about the entire interaction from start to finish, their AZ manifesto. But so we're actually writing 3 books right now. But the first one we're talking about is just on approaching.
Yes.
Because we feel that there's not as much known about it.
Exactly.
Or I take that back. There's a lot of information out there about approaching, but there's not a lot of information that teaches you how to approach. It's honest, and it leaves the door open for a sexual path.
Exactly, and that's what our second book will be about. And then the third book that is going to be upcoming as well will be on closing tactics. It'll be on threesomes. It'll be on actually sealing the deal, getting girls off, stuff like that. So we're going to be doing it in 3 parts.
And to answer your question, Fusion88, we won't say that name out loud for the recording, but for those of you who are on here who can see who we wrote, we will say that guy and the people he teaches get a lot of phone numbers, and they get a lot of Facebook closes.
Mm-hmm.
Guys that take his boot camp get a lot of phone numbers and get a lot of Facebook closes.
And
that's all, I will say.
If that's what you're into, cool.
I mean, you could write her phone number on a piece of paper and masturbate with that piece of paper in your hand. It'll be awesome.
Mm-hmm. You totally go home and fuck that phone number. Okay, so what other questions we have here? So we had I want to bring up myth number 7 because somebody actually asked if I would bring this one up. Mentioning game to a girl when you're in an interaction with her. Mention that you read the game or that you have studied mystery method or whatever, whatever style it is. Bringing that up in the interaction, I would say overall don't do that. You don't want it's especially now it's just kind of a negative connotation associated with guys that actually study this, and I know you can frame this in a way that it's cool, and in fact we have to do that all the time as instructors, but why bring that up if it's just going to be damage control if you do?
Yeah. So it's possible, like if a girl mentions it and your game is really tight, it's not a problem, but it just means that you can make a lot less mistakes. Because if you mention, oh, I read the game, then everything you do that slightly turns her off, she's more apt to say, what you did just there, that kind of turned me off, and I don't think that will work, and then she starts analyzing what you say with her mind rather than going with the emotional flow of it. Because, I mean, a lot of the stuff that works on women is something that if you told her about it, she would say, no, that would never work. But if you actually did it to her, it would work.
But by bringing up game or whatever you want to call it, it calls attention to it, so she thinks everything you're doing is some sort of trick. And you don't want to have to do that. You don't want to have to deal with that.
Yeah, if it comes up naturally and she mentions it and won't let it go, yeah, you can talk about it, because you don't want to cut her off. But at the same time, I would never voluntarily mention it.
Fusion 88, no. We're not going to mention who and whatnot, but no, yeah. I don't. Not at all.
No, he's not.
Okay, so more questions here.
Are the books, the approach books and the other, the Matrix book, are they books or e-books? Looks like it may be both. We're gonna definitely have it as an e-book version and an audio course with videos combined with it. So it's going to be a multimedia thing, because there's some stuff that we can write about, other stuff that you just have to see, just approaching and using Kino right from the get-go.
Yeah. So and we may actually get it printed up into physical books if the demand is there for that. That one, it'll definitely be an e-book, but that is an option that we may have.
Yeah, it depends on, because we have, like Babu was saying, we have thought about putting it out on paperback, which is certainly an option. But if we did that, there's a lot of things that we want to link to some multimedia files. We wouldn't be able to do that in a paperback. So it depends on how people learn best.
Yeah.
Because it'll be a long one. If we put it on paperback, it looks like it'll be, 200-300 pages-ish of just about approaching. So
exactly.
It's going to be great. We're so proud of it.
I like it. It was a bitch and a half, and it was a book that I never thought I was actually going to write, the approaching one, because it's a paradox. It's one of those things where it's either the most important or the least important thing. The most important because it gets the interaction going. It's the least important because overall, as long as you do it, you're probably okay. But immediately after opening or approaching, you need to start shifting gears and putting it in the sexual direction. So it talks about all that. So let's go on to another question.
Tommy Lovable is asking, will the book cover friends with benefits? The approaching book won't, because that's just about approaching, but the second book definitely will.
And yeah, the third one for sure. Setting up those kind of relationships. And here, we'll give you a really quick tip. If you want to have friends with benefits, be good in the sack, guys. That's really one of the biggest things. If you suck in the sack, she's not going to want to come back for seconds or thirds.
Yeah. And she's not going to tell you that you're bad in bed.
No, she's going to tell you you're awesome.
The way oh, that was so great, and she'll praise you because that's what women are conditioned to do, and she doesn't want to hurt your feelings because she likes you enough to sleep with you. And then if she makes a lot of excuses, then that's how you can know that you're bad in bed. Is if you have
a lot of girls that you call afterwards and they're not responding, chances are you suck.
Actually, if you have any girls that you call afterwards and they don't respond or they don't want to again, then it's
Probably
a strong
have some-
indicator.
yeah.
Even if it's like 1 in 10 does it, like, all right, well, what did I do with that girl? Because no matter what her situation is, if she sleeps with you once, she's usually predisposed to sleep with you again.
Mm-hmm. Girls don't. They look at their sexuality kind of like a used car on a car lot. It's common knowledge that the most value is lost the second you drive that car off the lot. She kind of looks at her pussy the same way. Each new guy that she adds down there takes a lot off her mileage. So she wants to, on some levels, keep that number as low as possible. So she can hook up with a guy as many times thousands of times, and not lose any mileage on her pussy. But for every new guy she adds, she loses it. So she's gonna want to sleep with one that keeps her mileage low, that gets her off, and does all those things for her, rather than adding a new one, for the most part.
Hey, Mr. Clean.
Hello, Mr. Clean.
Glad to have you on here. Your question is, what's the biggest difference in your approach to pulling a 9-10 versus a 6 or 7 for a same night lay?
I'll tell you, your perception of her, for the most part, your feeling of deservingness to have her. A lot of guys start getting weird around 9s and 10s as opposed to 6s and 7s. They think, well, a 6 and 7, yeah, I guess that's what I deserve. Whereas a 9 or a 10, well, she might be a little out of my league, so you start acting weird.
Mm-hmm.
So if you feel completely deserving of a 9 or a 10, it should overall go about the same.
Yeah, and also the only people that tell you they only sleep with 9s and 10s also are telling you that they're virgins.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the ones that usually have the highest standards. Like, well, I talked to this girl, but she was an 8, and I only sleep with 9s and 10s. Really?
I laugh at fuckers like that. Seriously? There's nothing wrong with sleeping with a 7 or an 8, a 6 even.
9s and 10s are good to sleep with just because they're fun to think about when you're masturbating later.
Exactly.
Because they're so beautiful, but they really are not that good in bed.
Here is Nick Quick's law here. A woman's ability in bed is inversely proportional to how hot she is. So those 9s and 10s usually are the lousiest ladies you'll ever have. I've noticed it. It's almost, there's an inverse relationship. The hotter they are, the lousier they are in bed, because they don't have to be good. I mean, they're hot. Look at those tits.
Uh-huh.
So, but yeah, I mean, basically, to answer your question in short, go about it like you feel like she's the kind of girl that you deserve to be with, and she will, and it'll go just the same as a 6 or 7.
All right. You know what? We had a question from Adam Schmadam. It was the first. Actually, I think this is the first question from Adam Schmadam. So, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Adam Schmadam.
What do you do when a girl resists you when you try to escalate from making out to sex? A girl resisted me earlier. She said she didn't want to have sex yet. I have no idea what to do about it. All right, first off.
Oh, I love that question. Go.
If a girl says that she doesn't want to have sex with you, it means that she wants to have sex with you. Because the only time, and that, I mean, the
Mark my
only
words
time
on
a
this.
girl will say that is because she's thinking about sex.
Mhm.
And so she's coming up with reasons not to. I mean, I remember times that, even after knowing this rule, I've been with a girl and she's like, you realize we are not going to sleep together. And she says it over and over. And I think, wow, usually that means that she is, but she seems to be really adamant. And then later on, we end up sleeping together. Every time. So first off, if a girl tells you that she's not going to sleep with you,
just relax, dude.
Yeah.
Here's what she's doing, usually when she says this. She's basically trying to test you. Can you handle if she says that she doesn't want to? If you can be cool about it, guess what? She wouldn't be bringing that up, like you said, if she wasn't thinking about it. So just be cool with it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Know in the back of your mind, I'm getting some tonight. And hell, the way you worded it, she doesn't want to have sex yet? Okay. Wait 5-10 minutes. Escalate again. Just be cool with it.
As Daniel Tosh said,
Yes.
no does not mean no. If no meant no, every man would die a virgin. No means work on the neck, the nipples, try again in 5 minutes. So, and which is a comedy routine. So I would say in seriousness, no does mean no, but we shouldn't doesn't mean no.
Yeah.
And so we better stop doesn't mean no. I mean, if a girl says no, stop, then obviously you stop, or hold her hand, and you can start up again later.
Yeah.
But
Just
so
be
what
cool
to do
when it happens.
Yeah, be cool with it. Say, yeah, of course not. Of course we're not going to sleep together. And then just start making out with her. Then just slowly escalate.
Mm-hmm.
And the number one thing to get her excited is put her hand on your erection.
Yep.
So while you have your thigh in between her legs, so it's rubbing like through her clothes even, and it's massaging her that way, stimulating her, take her hand, put it on your erection, and then you can whisper in her ear, pull me out. And have her undo your belt, open it up. That will get her so excited. And just go from there. And just keep escalating, but be cool with it. And, you know, it might take a while, but just don't stop and make her comfortable with it. And you can say stuff like, we'll do whatever we're comfortable with.
The biggest thing is just to be cool with it. What she's doing is trying to create sexual tension by saying stuff like that. If you can be comfortable with that sexual tension and not break it by getting all whiny is one big thing that guys do, get all pouty. Or they try to say something, oh, this is probably even more common in the community, is trying to respond with something cocky funny. The best thing is either just look at her and, you know, with an evil grin, just keep looking at her when she says that, securing the thought that you're going to be getting some later, and don't say anything. That'll just show her, okay, this is the kind of guy that I want to hook up with. He's not going to get all fucking weird when I say no.
All right, Guido's got another question saying about shock and awe openers. Do you guys think the Apocalypse opener really works?
No.
I've never gotten it to work. As a matter of fact, I read that, let's see, when did I first read that? Like a year and a half ago, whenever it came out.
Depends on what you mean by working.
Yeah.
It's not going to work like he says. You know, I read it, and yeah, I mean, tell me your experience with it, because I went out and used it a lot too. And although I like certain aspects of it, it does not work like he says it does.
Yeah, so I went and I was determined to get this to work because, I mean, I didn't know. I hadn't tried it yet. And it seemed like it could be interesting. I remember I was in Costa Rica, and so I went out to a bunch of clubs, and that was the only one I used. I just found girls who spoke English, because I didn't speak much Spanish at the time, and just tried it. And I got, you know, big reactions and giggling, but I ended up going home alone that night, despite using that one. So I found it to be ineffective as far as getting women to sleep with me.
I mean, it's the guy who wrote it actually even admitted that it was bullshit. So he was doing it to get noticed on that forum that he was posting it on, and I think he later became a Buddhist monk or something. He went off the deep end, but yeah, he was bullshitting. At the same time, I mean, be ballsy like that for certain. Shock and awe in and of itself is kind of effective in the sense that you're being ballsy and you're escalating. The Apocalypse opener, on the other hand, not so effective.
And for those of you who are not familiar with the Apocalypse opener, Guido just typed it out. Babu was the question: if you guys looks matter, what is it you guys think they are attracted to than in an average guy, especially if it's a really hot one and she can have any guy?
Okay, let me explain the looks matter thing again. Any seduction company or pickup company out there that says looks don't matter, RSD, they're full of shit. It does. Girls are going to allow Brad Pitt to make mistake after mistake after mistake all night, and probably will still hook up with him. He's a very dreamy dude. Of course, they're going to put up with a lot more from him than, say, a fat bald man like myself in a silly Mexican shirt. But that being said, you just can't make as many mistakes. So if you're not as attractive, that doesn't mean that you can't, because looks aren't as important for guys they are necessarily for when we look at women. But at the same time, you just can't make nearly as many mistakes. And that's the key distinction. So you get your game tight, and even if you're not the most attractive person on the planet, you can still push past it. Now, that being said, there's also certain Z factors in there where if you're just not some girls are not going to be able to go for a fat, bald guy, no matter what. Certain girls will go for a fat, bald guy, and that's their type. Neither are, I mean, can't really take the credit for either. It just happens to be your type. So, that being the case, what do? You just play your game right.
Yeah. And so, on the one hand, looks do influence it. It's a lot easier when you look good. However, it's not important. I'm going to show you guys a picture right now. We had a pool party the other week, and and I didn't have a swimming suit, so I just wore my underwear, Superman underwear, to be precise. And there's a girl I met on, I think it was OkCupid or Plenty of Fish. I met her online, and we talked like a couple times. I said, hey, come down and meet me. So this is the first impression this girl had of me when we met. Let's see if this comes up. No. Where are you? But it's me. It's not. I got a pretty good looking face, but I am not in that great of shape. Anyway, so while I'm waiting to see if this.
While he's doing that, let's see the next question we've got here. Let's see. Have both of you guys ever did a double SNL where you and Adonis double penetrated someone? We have not done that yet. Him and Race have done that. He and I have not, and he is intimidated of my dick. So he doesn't like to bring me in because he feels like he's going to be a little inadequate. I don't know. With lots of my wings, I have done that. Epic, I think, is the only wing that I haven't done that with yet.
Yeah, we never have.
What do you do? What do you do? Did you get that to work?
No, now it looks like it froze the video even, but they can still hear us. Oh well, it's probably best for everyone's eyeballs to not see me wearing my underwear parading around.
We're going to fix the screen, but as long as you guys can still hear us, we'll keep answering questions here. Let's see.
Yeah, will that be in our book, How to DP with a Wing?
That might be in the third one.
Here's the trick to do that. Just get her in there, and then, I mean, my first orgy, I walked in on some friends, and I said, hey, it looks like the threesome's about to start, and I just put my junk in her mouth.
Yeah, I mean, most of like threesomes and all of that, especially if you're going for the Eiffel Tower Devil's threesome, it's just about doing it. Yeah, basically that's it. Just doing it. Okay,